Good morning, everybody. You are watching a very special episode of Mornings with Greg right now. Turn down this music a little bit. This is a 10 a.m. episode rather than the normal 8 a.m. episodes that we do, because we have some very special industry representatives on with us today, and they're actually on the line right now, so I will keep this intro very brief. In fact, I will let the intro be done by one of the members that we have in this panel right now, Mr. Simon Rentner.
What's up, everybody?
There we go. 1 second. Pulling up the guest panel, and now, there we are. All right, so we have Simon Rentner over there, who you can see now, and everybody else.
Hello, everybody.
I'll let Simon introduce.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Simon, as you may know me as the host and producer of The Checkout from WBGO podcast and syndicated radio show. Listen to the podcast. Some actually will be releasing the podcast we did for Public Radio Music Day with Greg Spiro, talking about his forthcoming recording on Rope-A-Dope June 12th with special guest Makaya McCraven, Marquise Hill, the vocalists from Sweden, Serentip, giving a performance, and the great Michael League playing a Moroccan banjo. It's a fabulous show, which sort of jump-started the Mornings with Greg viral sensation, making Greg Spiro, the pianist, a star himself, hopefully. That's the end objective. Let's make Greg Spiro a star. How about it? Joining us on the line today, though, a distinguished panel of people, some of whom I haven't actually ever met in person before, so it's a great honor and privilege to do so here in this forum. First, we got Louis Marks, the CEO of Rope-A-Dope Records, who's working on some amazing projects, including Renew Music, which is an initiative basically combating the crisis we're faced with right now. He'll tell us more about that. We also have Scotty McNeese from International Anthem Records, the co-founder and curator. Shout out to Makaya McCraven, who appeared on this show and represents basically many of the brilliant Chicago cats in their current form. We also have John Madoff from Chant Records, the founder, joining us, and he's going to be talking about what he's doing. And then last and certainly not least, Elmo Lovano, who I just learned is the cousin of the great Joe Lovano. Holy mackerel, jazz royalty himself. And he has a company called Jam Card, which I'm personally fascinated to learn more about. And, I just want him to tell us what he's doing. So why don't we just start this panel discussion by, I'm going to ask everybody just to do really brief, succinct, sort of like, what are they working on right now kinds of things. And then I want everyone to pose the one question that you're thinking about the most as we start this conversation. So why don't we start with you, Elmo, because I don't really understand what your company is anyway. So maybe you can describe that and we can start from there.
Yes, sir. My company is Jam Card. We are the Music Professionals Network. So we do a lot of things, but we have an app that is a community of all vetted music professionals in the United States, currently in Los Angeles, Nashville, New York, and Atlanta. It's everything from all instrumentalists, producers, songwriters, but we even have engineers, tour managers, front of house people, PMs, managers, kind of all of what we call music professionals. So there's two sides to the network. For one, there's a private social network that's like a protected place just for the vetted pros that Greg has been a part of pretty much since the beginning. Mm-hmm. And then now last week we launched Jam Card Booking, which is a marketplace to book our members, any of our members that have opted in. So we built payments directly into the platform, which is a super straightforward, streamlined way for you to get booked for currently today, remote recording sessions from home or lessons, mentorships, anything like that. once touring kicks back in, we'll go back into staffing tours. We have staffed over the last 2 years. Some of the biggest tours have all come from Jamcard. So that's what we are on the tech side. As well as that, we also throw an event called the Jam Jam.
Yes, the
That
Jam
is
Jams.
super fun. Started in my living room. And it kind of just grew really fast. And it's a members only event where we set up all the gear in a circle facing in, and the crowd is directly on top of the performers, but even the crowd is all your peers, because it's all members only for the crowd as well. So it all started in the living room, and we did it actually we did a couple with Greg with Spirit Fingers and Black Dynamite, and we also did Ghost Note as well with Greg at Greg's studio. And then we've also done Corey Henry. We've done we did Terrace Martin and Kamasi Washington. We did Ice Cube with George Clinton and Anderson .Paak. We did Quincy Jones with Jacob Collier, and we've done 2 all-women jams, one featuring Judith Hill and one featuring Lauren Haregi, with just like a 30-piece female ensemble. And we've done them LA, Nashville, Atlanta, and New York. We did Robin Thicke with the Soul Rebels. We've done a bunch of them. It's really grown into this really fun thing. And with that, we just started Jamcard Music as well. And our first release for Jamcard Music is Terrace Martin with Kamasi Washington and Ronald Bruner Jr. It's called The Gray Area. That just came out about 2 months ago. So really fun things happening there. We also just partnered with Splice, and we just launched Jamcard Samples, which is a sample base from our community. Really excited about that. The first 2 packs cracked the Splice top 20 already. We did Philip Cornish, the Sunday Service keys. He's the music director for Kanye West Sunday Service. So it's all like B3 and grand piano and all that. And then we did Luke Holland, who's currently the drummer for Rufus Du Sol, like a beat pack. And we have a bunch of others coming out right there. But so there's a lot within the Jamcard world. But essentially, we stand for excellence in music, and we have the musicians, or as we say, the music professionals, our members, are top of mind always. So how can we benefit them? How can we bring them opportunities? How can we help get them paid? How can we elevate them? A big thing about Jamcard is proving that the people behind the stars are stars too, and that's like part of our mission. And what's awesome is we've been able to grow with that, and it's kind of a beautiful day. Kind of a weird day today, but beautiful day in general for musicians. The fact that musicians are like back on stage, like you go to Coachella last year, and there's musicians on stage. It's not just DJs. Now even the DJs have bands, or the hip hop acts all have bands. So I think the Instagram musician becoming a thing, and these young kids becoming really talented online is a beautiful thing for the future of music. And so, yeah, I'm very optimistic about where the music industry is heading, and I'm just happy to help and contribute to modernize it any way I can, but with musicians being at the top of that list, not the bottom.
Lewis, you're up next, I think.
All right. First of all, Greg, thank you for putting this together. It's really, really wonderful. It's great to meet new people and talk to people in the industry. We all work hard, I think, at our desks, and often don't get to circulate, right? And especially now. So thanks.
Well, thanks for being a part of it.
There you go. If people aren't familiar with Rope-A-Dope, a quick summary: 20-year-old independent record label that's always trying to push in new directions and support artists in any way that we can. 550 recordings, probably 300 or 400 of those in the last 4 years. And I've been working at this, trying to come up with new ideas on a regular basis of how to support musicians in a pretty distorted financial field. The way people consume music has changed drastically, and it's a constant challenge to try to fight off the norms of the industry and support independent artists and teach them how to work collaboratively, and that's our big thing, is how do you build community. It's in the best interest of the dominant powers for people to be separated, but our mantra and our method has been to try to connect people. It's funny hearing Elmo mention people that are working and doing the jams, and so many of them are involved in our network as well. And the last month or so, 2 months, has been quite a challenge. Step one was keep things rolling. We have a robust release schedule. We wanted to make sure that we could continue to stay with that. And then look for ways, what is this new landscape? I'm trying to think a year down the road. I don't want to guess that someone's going to come along and just put everything back to normal and make things good for independent artists and musicians and good music. There has to be some kind of financial model that replaces consistent touring. I think artists were already challenged just running around the world as it was, making ends meet. And now something strong, some model has to emerge. And things like this are great to start with, to see what we can do together.
Cool. All right. Who's up next? Scotty? John? John, you're next.
Okay. Yeah, I want to thank Greg for putting this together, and everybody else who's here, and Lewis also for making the connection between Greg and I. Lewis has been kind of a mentor for me as I'm starting this record label, Chant Records, which I launched about 2.5 years ago with my music and business partner, Shanier Blumenkrantz, who's a bass player and producer in New York. The label itself was started kind of to meet a simple need that we found, that musicians were all the musicians in our community were all doing our own albums on our own. And even like the other people in the bands that they were in didn't know about what they were doing. So that to me was like this, pain point, as they say, of like that was a big problem. And we simply wanted to aggregate everything. So if I'm a musician, also a fan of my band, if my bass player who's in 10 bands has an album out, there should be a place where people can go. So at least whatever we have can get aggregated and help each other out that way. And it's grown tremendously since then. We have about 50 albums so far. And our model is somewhere kind of between a collective and a full label. But the community growth and spirit of it has really been the best thing for us. And our albums include my band, which is called Zion 80. We're kind of a Jewish Afrobeat jazz improv downtown New York 10-piece band. It's a mashup of a lot of things. Yemen Blues is another band. A great vocalist and experimental musician, Randy Pontoppidan, who lives in Norway, and a lot of other musicians. Mick Rossi, who was in Paul Simon's band and Philip Glass's ensemble, kind of coming out of the New York downtown scene, but reaching, very far to artists, across Europe, in Israel, South America, and across the States. And we're just looking for ways to work with musicians no matter what the reality is. And obviously this is a very new reality that we're in. So I personally have been trying to do some education using the expertise that I've gained on the business and promo and social media side, and doing workshops for musicians. My own kind of musical background is coming out of this downtown scene. I've had a few different bands that were really active on it. I've worked with John Zorn for about 16 or 17 years. Before I started my label, I had 7 albums on his label and have done commissions from him. And that's basically it. And kind of what I'm looking for, I think, like everybody, is, what does the future look like? And where are the opportunities that we might only have begun thinking about now? What opportunities does this present? Obviously, we know the glass half empty side of it very much. Some people much more than others, but I think there is also a glass half full side, and I want to find that.
And Scotty, you're last, and certainly not least.
Yeah. Nice to meet you. My name's Scotty McNeese. I run a record label with my partner David Allen called International Anthem. We started out of Chicago. Most of the artists we work with have roots in the Chicago music scene, and yeah, I don't know. Working on right now. I've been working a lot on perfecting a Neapolitan pizza from scratch. Uh, that's kind of been really the main thing I've been doing for the last month. I mean, I am trying to continue putting records together and getting records ready for release. Trying to meet the moment with some creative solutions, but also just trying to stay healthy and strong and stay connected with the artists we work with, and just kind of get through this. And I don't know. I'm excited to learn a little bit from you all today.
Well, I feel like Louis Marks has already put some brain capital into trying to predict the future here, and even creating the Renew music. So I feel like maybe, Louis, I would like to empower you to tell us about Renew music and sort of what are the big questions that you're trying to answer right now?
Interesting. Okay, so I want to say that brain power, that constant thinking about what's wrong with the music business and what can be created is a steady and ongoing thing. And a lot of ideas come to me. It's funny, Greg and I have brainstorming sessions, and then a year later we're like, well, we didn't quite get that done. But so a lot of the things that are on my mind now are things that have been on my mind for quite some time. The name Renew Music began a little while back as some sort of a nonprofit foundation that would help artists to fund new records, because that was a problem prior to COVID-19. But now we've rolled it out as a support organization or a support initiative, I'll say, because it's not really its own organization. And there are several phases, and people can look at ropeadope.com/renew-music and read it. But step one is just getting some money, right? First thing is everybody needs money. So we're doing $500 grants to musicians who are in need, who aren't receiving, the kind of grant or government or other support that is out there, right? We've just started. We don't want to roll this out in a heavy way and ask people who are already struggling to try to take, some more money out of their pocket. So we're really looking for high-level donors, foundations and arts organizations to step in. And we've partnered with a 501c3 in New Jersey who can list this as an initiative of theirs. So, the gates are open for people to donate. And then we have a very simple process of giving out a $500 grant to any artist who can demonstrate a loss of income, an immediate loss of income, and that they have not received a tremendous number of grants from other places. Step two is looking to the future.
And how can musicians apply for these grants, just on a practical level?
The application is right there on ropeadope.com/renew-music. Simple 3-question or 4-question questionnaire form. So after we deal with that immediate, we want to look at how we can help to build a sustainable future. And one of the first things is obviously this, right? Greg has a wonderful setup for us to live stream instantly with great visuals, and he's fiddling with the knobs and making it all perfect. He obviously has the right gear and the know-how. So the next step is Renew Music will be reaching out to top brands, people who create video switchers and audio equipment for live streaming. And right now we're assembling those lists and sending out pitches. And if gear companies, main companies want to be engaged and support musicians, and also reach out to what will become an emerging and a growing audience, we encourage them to get in touch with me. We have probably just within the Rope-A-Dope network maybe 6 to 8 people who are set up in decent studios around the world. And we also have about 400 or 500 musicians who could use a tutorial, a lesson, and some gear to live stream directly from their home. And if we have to ship that around and move mics and things around, we have the ability to do that. So we want to kind of get everybody activated as best they can to be able to create quality, because this is the key. A lot of people are live streaming and putting their information out on the web for free. That's not going to solve this problem. We need to be able to create the kind of at-home or in a local studio content that doesn't look free, that people can pay for.
With smart paywalls, ultimately, right? Like, because the whole thing is about activating people to pay, whether that's guilt tripping them into it or just putting up a flat out, buy this ticket to see this product, right?
Well, yes. I mean, the paywalls, Patreon is out there, and there are plenty of ways to do that. What we're trying to address first is, if it looks free, then it's going to be free. We need these are some of the best musicians in the world, and if they can create better quality from their location or from, and I expect they're going to be an emerging set of studios and companies that are going to do this for musicians to be able to live stream, similar to what Elmo's doing, right? And I guess, but we want to empower that and grow that network, help it in any way we can, so that you can create something that is worth paying for. I mean, it's fine now when everyone's stuck at home, but in the future we need it to be better quality.
Louis?
You can answer.
Oh yeah, sorry. Go on. I'm just curious, just on a practical note, have you gotten tech companies to be able to deliver gear to any musicians? Are there any tech companies stepping up for musicians right now that you know of?
We haven't landed a single thing yet. We started out with Blackmagic and a couple of others, but quite honestly, everything disappeared off the shelf, so there really wasn't anything to give away. I mean, Video Switchers was where we started.
Yeah, I remember an A10 Mini a month ago, and it just shipped out yesterday.
And I'm surprised it has. Yeah. We do have, we have had some great conversations with some of our artists and a few companies that are very supportive from a marketing perspective, and actually some equipment, Gibson guitars, Sennheiser, PreSonus, we're in conversations. So they need to get their heads around it. They need to understand it. It's not I can read this pitch. It's really a phone call, a Zoom meeting. Where are we going with this? Because it's not fleshed out exactly, because everything's changing day to day. So, it needs to be an ongoing conversation. But I think when brands realize, I wonder what is happening without live performance worldwide. How are brands reaching fans or buyers at this point? They're going to have to rethink it. Right now, they're busy recycling their advertising content because they can't create it, and so they're really busy for the minute. They're pivoting for COVID. But then, what is next? If there are no major sporting events, if there are no Bonnaroos or Coachellas, or they're going to be gone for a year or so, how are advertisers going to reach fans? So that's the market that I'm trying to get at. And then the third level of that is education. I think education is very vulnerable to this situation. I don't see how colleges are going to resume things as normal when they see the cost of physical plant to bring people together and to scrub down and clean and make sure that everybody's safe. This is all in question. So we have, again, it's not just us, there are thousands of professional musicians out there who can become educators with video and live streaming and interactive discussion, who would normally do a master class for a fee, but that could be recorded anywhere. We did some preliminary numbers on this. We can create a year's curriculum with 40 top musicians for somewhere between $100 to $250 per student. It's a big price tag up front, but it's very, very reasonable. And so, that's the next level of Renew, is to try to reach out to educators and even lawmakers and administrators at major colleges, to talk about, open the conversation about how you can have these great musicians teach a curriculum from their living room.
Here's the big thing that I find compelling about that, which it's been on my mind a lot since our first conversation about that particular educational initiative within Renew Music, is that aside from the price tag, those are the artists that people are going to want to be educated by. We have an educational, the academic landscape has been so far behind the technological capabilities for 15 years since things became available. I was sitting in a lecture hall when I was in college 15 years ago that could have been done on a video. There were 500 or 1,000 people in this lecture hall. I remember it, and I was like, even then I was like, why are we even here? But that so changing that could change the cost, but you're talking about value being added in a way where you would never be able to get a lesson from, I'll just throw out random names. I know there are no actual artist associations, but let's say I wanted to actually learn some bass from Thundercat. It's like, you're not going to go to a university and learn that. But if you had a system like this where somebody could do something that's replicated like that, it could be compelling enough. And that masterclass company capitalized on that a little bit, but that's just so specific and niche. Well, I think what you're talking about is something that the educational industry should have been ready for 10 years ago, and now I think with people not being able to go to lecture halls, this is the time.
It's similar to the landscape in the music business and recorded music business, in that you're either in the establishment with the, say the University of California system or SUNY or whatever, and there are people making decisions on financing. If not, you're out on your own. You're an independent company and you're trying to deliver content directly to fans, right? Somewhere in the middle of all this, what I'm hoping is that we can find a way for this independent artistry to really fully become part of that mainstream piece and get funded by it. Mm-hmm. Masterclass is an independent company and they have to go direct to fan, right? If this were presented by a system like the University of California or State University of New York, or, and then some of the smaller schools, there could be appropriate funding for musicians for a long time to come.
Mm-hmm. Well, and academia it's interesting. It's one of the middlemen right now. We're going to talk about a bunch of middlemen that are existing, and sort of what these, when they get big enough, these organizations tend to have trouble shifting, which is what we've seen in academia, and they're between two markets, or they're between somebody who's producing and someone who's consuming. And academia was that for a long time, and there are ways to go around that middleman now. But the same thing, which I want to talk about in a little bit, with the majors like Spotify and even YouTube. But there are positives and negatives to all of these. Oh, nice camera switch, by the way. I see you've been getting your videos set up really solid over there. There's an opportunity now, and this is the reason that I want us to come together as people in the music industry. There's an opportunity now for us to not be at the mercy of some of the middlemen who have historically played a part in dictating what is possible with the exchange of this information, whether it's education or the musical content. As long as I've still got
I kind of want to pose just a general question right now of what I'm seeing on the internet, and just get your feedback from all of you about it. Is basically the singular question: to stream or not to stream right now for free as a musician? Are we doing more damage to the music community now by giving away free concerts on Facebook or wherever? Or, should we refrain from all of this streaming because we're just sort of giving content away for free and, devaluing the content thus? Or is this is this a different, or we should just continue what we're doing to build the brand by streaming for free and think the money and learn how to monetize it down the road? Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll say that the first thing that comes to mind is that the streaming, like you're talking about now with, let's say doing a concert from your living room on Facebook Live, is really the same conversation about Spotify, which is essentially, people may disagree. My experience as a label owner is that Spotify is not a revenue generator at all. Negligibly so, if that's a word. And I've met and come across musicians who are really, and labels and other entities that are really successful who completely do not stream, and they're only, let's say, vinyl, CD, whatever, and ones who really embrace it. And I think the most important thing that I try to do as a label owner, and even more importantly as a musician, is to look at the whole package, the whole ecosystem. Because yes, there's this streaming, and it in many ways, arguably most ways, it sucks for musicians. It's kind of amazing for listeners because you can listen to whatever you want for almost no money. And we shouldn't discount that because most of those people are like really passionate music fans. But at the same time, obviously, we, like everybody else, deserves to get paid for our work. And Spotify exists at the same time as like Kickstarter. So 10 or 15 years ago, neither of those things really existed in any real form. So, and things like DistroKid or TuneCore for an independent musician to distribute their music internationally for almost no money. So I think regardless of the conclusion that you come to, it's important to see the whole ecosystem, and that the same world that created Spotify also created an ability, or like a crowdfunding platform like Kickstarter or Patreon, where people, I was able to raise double the amount that my label was giving me for my budget on Kickstarter. It wasn't huge. Actually, sorry, I used Pledge Music, which we can have a whole discussion about that, the whole fiasco. But when I was doing it, it worked for me. It was horrible what happened to it and all the musicians that got screwed, but I made double the budget. And then my album was out, it was paid for. And I was like, okay, I'm going to put it on Spotify because I can get some fans. It's already paid for. So I just want to put that out there of trying to see the whole picture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Spotify seems more like a marketing tool than anything else right now. And I think
for sure.
the question is, can we adapt as an artist community to treat it as such and have our revenue streams in something else, which maybe it's live streaming. I don't know. I haven't figured out how to monetize live streaming yet, but Lewis and I have talked about it, and we have had some good ideas. And actually, another person who's been thinking about that is Bryce Rosenblum, who we had on the podcast a few days ago, the founder of Winter Jazz Fest, and he is looking at doing they're likely going to, I'm not sure if it's definite or likely that they're considering doing Winter Jazz Fest as a streaming festival this coming one. He was talking about tiers of concerts, right? Like you can go to one for free, or you can pay for the main concert or something like that. I mean, these are all just ideas floating around in the ether. But it's a question that's been on my mind, and I wonder what your guys' thoughts on it is. Like, one, is it possible to monetize live streaming in the first place? And then if so, how? Like, how can we take steps towards making that a system where people would pay to watch something that we're streaming live? Or does money come from somewhere else?
Well, I think it absolutely is. I mean, if you look at the models that Live from Our Living Rooms was able to execute and raise money for musicians recently, raising money along the lines of $60,000 or something on that ballpark. And then, also just navigating with what Snarky Puppy and Michael League are doing with Crowdcast. You are forced to make a donation of some kind before you can even access the content. So by doing that, you have to pay something. I don't know exactly how, from Snarky Puppy's side of things, how they are divvying up that cash, but you would seem to think that certain kinds of agreements can come in and splits can be made about where that money goes to, when presenting a virtual festival. Has anybody thought about those splits and what those might even look like?
I guess not. I mean, that's less of the. Well, Lewis, did you have thoughts on that before I get my thoughts? You looked like you were about to say something.
Yeah. It's the Wild West, right? I mean, it's kind of up to who the organizer is and what the power structure is in any given band. It's the age-old controversy between, who's the leader and how much money do people get. I mean, I don't even know what the numbers would be, but I would presume you're just going to have a mixed bag. Some people are going to do splits, evenly, and other people are going to say, well, I've organized this and I've put the energy and the effort, and it's my name that's drawing people, and I'll pay you as a contract service to appear.
Yeah. It's going to be a marketplace again. It's similar to how a festival works, right? Like, festivals, you pay the biggest names the most amount of money because they're not going to do it if you don't pay them the most amount of money, and they'll draw a bunch of people to the festival, sell the tickets, and then you can also distribute to other people who are in the festival. But I guess there's the thing on people's mind, it seems to be, is can we do this without actually, are we going to be at the mercy of festival curators again online now, or are we going to be able to create an audience for ourselves and live stream and monetize that in an effective way with the attention being the currency, as it has been in different industries in the past? Just like people aren't accustomed to paying for this yet, and is there a way to do that or get brands on board to
I want to go down that rabbit hole a little further. For a long time, to me, the entire landscape of the business was, you're either going through the designated infrastructure, or you can play the Wild West and go straight to fans, right? Mm-hmm. After COVID, when I'm looking at it, I think you need the infrastructure. I think there need to be promoters, and I think there need to be event organizers, and there need to be people who can do all this, and then that hire the musicians. I don't think that the independent way of I'm live streaming from my room and I'm going to promote this on my social channels is going to go any further than just your fans. So I do believe we need people who. I'd be interested in hearing Bryce, as well. So because what is that venue going to do? Well, they can be, I would love to have an online venue that could book some of our artists right now. That would be fantastic. Rather than us trying to do it ourselves, or every artist trying to do it themselves. I think we need, that's where my thinking is at this moment. We need that infrastructure.
An online venue, like a channel that's streaming 24 hours a day with different, or not even 24. Let's just say at 8 p.m. every night.
100 of them, as many venues as there are actual venues. Or whatever the market will bear, right? Mm-hmm.
And then people, as they adopt it from their homes, will tend to go to this particular venue because they like the curation process. But it's really just a curation process at that point, right? It's like a blog. A blog could do it, or anybody who has some level of attention right now, a blog or a record label. And you're talking about starting a regular show that has different people on it, which some there's Boiler Room, and there are places that do some that have been doing that to some extent. And I guess, are we saying that those are going to be the new festival curators, and then they're hopefully going to make a lot more money from people because Boiler Room also has been free. I wonder if there's a Boiler Room premium.
Well, I know Boiler Room has been reaching out to artists I guess, willing to pay a fee of some kind for content right now. So, you would presumably, you think they're probably in a position to really be aggressive about the model going forward.
Mm-hmm. I think that we need the technology of the platform that can do it with high quality audio and actually stream in real time. And I think people would pay for it. I would pay for it, similar to the Coachella experience. I would pay to watch Coachella, and it's not because there's an audience there or because it's live at Coachella. I would do it because it's high quality. It's curated really well. Of course, that's a festival promoter, right? But I don't think that there's the thing that's stopping everyone on this Zoom conference from doing that right now is just lack of technology that's accessible, that you can either have the physical place like Greg, like your studio, where everyone could come and do it from there, but then stay 6 feet away from each other. But people can't do it from home yet because you have Twitch and all these things, which are great, but then you have OBS and people don't really understand how to get the audio to sound good. And unless you're a DJ, it's really difficult, right? So then you have your Instagram live, which is just like, you know, Lewis is saying, like, if it looks free, it's free. Mm-hmm. Just you playing guitar and singing. Singer-songwriters can do that, but like drummers can't do that at a quality level, or a band can't do that at a quality level. So I think the second a platform comes out where there's low barrier to entry in terms of somehow linking your Ableton or your Pro Tools or whatever your home studio setup is and having it stream live, super low latency, I think then we can all become promoters, and the promoters can be promoters and do it. But I think Lewis is completely correct, is if you get that, I think people will pay. And even if it's $5, like I paid to do one the other night, Trap Jazz was playing live. They figure out how to do it somewhere, and I paid $5 and I watched for 15 minutes and I was happy to do it, you know, because it was cool that it was like, oh, they're playing live. The mix is good, you know, compared to just watching a live concert archive on YouTube or something like that. So I think the second that there are the technology to stream it and places for people to come and perform and do it, or do it from home if they make it user friendly enough, then I think there will be a boom in that. And I think that people will start doing it and people will pay.
Yeah. And I feel like I want to say this to any artist watching this right now. And this is just a gut feeling. This isn't based on any analysis, but this is just from the many conversations that I've been having. But it seems to me that the feeling is that people want to give their money. They don't want to watch for free. Like there's a general feeling and consensus and empathy that if you're going to do a live concert online, please put a paywall if you can. Figure out that technology, do it through Crowdcast or whatever, because people want to give you money for it. I think there's that is that mindset out there right now. So if we can somehow continue in fostering that culture of thinking, just and empower musicians to do that, you know, maybe we can organically move this thing forward.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
You got to do it at a quality level.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
you know.
So Elmo, you're saying it's mainly a technological gap. I think that there's the setup that I have here. I mean, I'm running through Ableton. You guys are being all compressed and I have the ability to send it through Reverb, and when I have people playing instruments through Zoom, and then it's mixing it with my voice and sending it out through OBS to everybody. And this took me like a week to set up and figure out with multiple cameras. I had to buy a couple more little things, but it's like we're not too far away from that being aggregated into something. It's like it's aggregatable. It just now takes like your entire brain for a week to figure it out and put it all together. But if this is the thing that is going to be people's livelihood, my thinking is, it's first of all, it's worth it. Like for me, it was worth that week of figuring it all out. But secondly, there must be somebody working on this technology to make it easier for people to pull it all together. I don't know who that is, but
there definitely is. I have two different friends working on platforms that are both different. One of them is actually a platform, because the thing that I would love the most is, you know, which no one's ever been able to successfully do, is the multi-location live stream.
I've been
right?
trying to
so we
figure
can
that
have.
shit out too.
It's a latency issue. My hopes is that 5G, you know, comes out and all of a sudden, like, we have the bandwidth to do this, you know, that's great. I don't know if that's the case, but I have a friend that's getting close right now on development on that.
Nice.
But also it's so hard, you know, it's so hard to do, because you got to be able to, like, I got to be able to be on drums. You're playing keys. You got to be able to hear my drums in real time and hear yourself. And I got to be able to hear you. And we, you know, at first it'll be probably like a count, like per city, like, okay, LA, as long as everyone's in LA or everyone's in Burbank or whatever it is, then it can happen. And then it stretches to San Diego or Southwest. But until someone's in New York and someone's in LA, that will get figured out in time, whether it's, a combination of 5G and just super compression and whatever else it is. But that'll open up a lot, because then anyone with their home studio could be doing these crazy concerts, even if your band isn't there. And I think that would also, surpass just us being inside for a virus. I would watch that as I'm staying inside, even if I had the ability to go outside.
Well, it would also open up a huge new marketplace of opportunities for artists who couldn't have collaborated with each other before to collaborate with each other. It's not something that would.
Wait, so Elmo, you're saying where you think we're gonna be able to solve the space-time continuum with musicians playing live from different cities, and that is coming soon? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think I'm confident we'll have it within a year. I think we will.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I think we will. But it's going to be to a certain extent. It's not going to be London and LA, right? Mm-hmm. It'll be like a county. It'll be like LA wide. Like you can be in Santa Monica and I'm in Hollywood, right?
Because I was just on, looking at a friend of mine, Dan Teffer's Twitter, feed, and he is also, Ivy League educated, physicist and mathematician of sorts, and he thinks it's impossible. It'll never be solved. So I'm kind of surprised that you think this thing can be solved in a year.
I just have some engineer friends that are close, and I know that if they can focus on it for a year, and if 5G comes and does what it says it can do, I would love to see it.
There's an application. So Sput and I have been talking a lot about live streaming because he's doing his live stream show as well. Mm-hmm. And he sent me this thing called Session Wire. Have you guys heard of that? I downloaded it and tried to make it work, and it didn't work because there's a peer-to-peer network blocker on my network here that I haven't been able to get through. But supposedly he was adamant that this is He said he was able to do something like what we're talking about using this application Session Wire. So
that's crazy.
It's something to look into. I was not able to get it working, but I was just kind of wondering if any of you guys had any experience with it.
Also, I'd just like to quickly and kindly and lovingly play devil's advocate to Elmo, stating that quality is essential in these streams right now, because I feel like there's people in the social media industry that would disagree with you. I'm not saying I do personally, but I feel like people are very forgiving of quality, especially right now, because we're in the Wild West. I think what's most important is access and this exclusivity to the content itself, and the genuine goodwill. People will come regardless, even if it's grainy and choppy. I'm not saying this is going to be this is going to be the case perhaps 6 months from now, but I feel like you can probably put out a fairly less than par product right now with a paywall, and people may still pay for it. I think there is a line of thinking out there with that mentality. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, I want to bring up another analogy that relates exactly to that point. We saw something in pop music over the past 10 years where there was just there was a wave of just the worst quality recordings. In particularly, I mean, there were some great ones too, but in urban music, there were some number one hits that were recorded that were just so obvious to anybody who was listening, who knows anything about the recording process, that this was done on a phone, or like it was a piece of content that was created in the most ad hoc, unprofessional way, but it had something compelling about it that connected with people, and therefore became gigantic. And we actually have seen that in jazz too. I mean, Scotty, actually, this might be a good thing to bring you in on, because I think it was Angel's first record that she recorded on her cell phone or something like that, right? And that was covered by Rolling Stone and picked up by a lot of people. By the way, if you're speaking, I can't hear you because you're on mute. There you go.
I was listening on mute.
Okay, cool. But
I mean, I think that I think that I agree with Elmo principally. I mean, I think maybe he used the word quality, but maybe what he means is just some presented in an interesting way. Whether or not it's hi-fi or not, I don't think really matters. But if the quality of the content is interesting, if it's an interesting setting with an interesting angle, and like the artist is doing something interesting visually, that's high quality, regardless of whether it's choppy or lo-fi. I think that that's more important than anything. And that's the thing with Angel's record. It's not about the fact that she did record it on her cell phone. It's about the fact that it sounds interesting, you know? And, I think that's, so I, in a way, I kind of agree with both Simon and Elmo. Like, I think that in order for any of us to, or anyone in general, to really care about doing the live stream or engaging with it, or the musicians, you know, because I know a lot of musicians who really aren't that interested in doing a live stream. It's just more about, can it be done in an interesting way that feels artistic, or does it just kind of feel like the same thing? Does it feel the same as it does when you like talk to your aunt on Skype or whatever, you know, like,
I also think it's different for bands, as always, right? It's different for Cardi B talking to the camera than it is for a 5-piece band to play together, right? Because if a band is playing and it's super distorted audio, you're not going to pay, right? Or maybe you'll pay for that one time to support them, but you're not going to do it again. You're not going to do it again.
I love going to hardcore and punk shows, man. That's all I wanted to hear. I wanted my to be destroyed.
Well, it's the difference between like when a band goes on IGTV and is performing as a band just straight up on, and it's like you can't hear the bass, it's distorted drums, you know, you can barely hear the vocals. Like, you're not going to pay for that, or maybe you'd pay one time, but you're not going to be like, oh, I'm going to keep paying this. I'm going to stay in Friday night and support this artist, this artist, this artist. Like, you could do it with a similar setup to what Greg already has built over this week. You know, if it's live from Tiny Room and it's, you know, high quality, like I'll pay $5-10 to sit there and watch that live, because it'll be good quality audio and stuff. But I think if he was doing live from Tiny Room and it was like distorted and glitching and it was like cut frame, it wouldn't get me again, you know?
Right.
Think about, I mean, not to extrapolate this too much, but maybe I'll just go for it, because why not? Like, you think about, I mean, so it sounds like shit, it looks like shit, but then like over time people figure out how to wield that, you know, in the same way that the entire sound of a distorted guitar was the sound of a technological mistake that people learned how to, like, they learned to embrace that, and they're like, oh man, I love the way this sounds when the shit's distorted as hell, and now there's entire genres of music built around it. Or like, you know, the Japanese sound artist guy in the 90s who made an album of CD skips, you know, like it's like, I think it's like Brian Eno was talked about how like the mistakes and like the technological problems of the present become like the preferred sound of the future. You know, it's like, if people learn how to like wield the technology in a way that even if it's limited and it kind of sounds like crap, but you can do it in a cool way, it kind of becomes a style. And like, and even with like multiple musicians playing on a stream, I mean, I personally haven't found myself that engaged with how to make the streaming thing work. But I know a lot of musicians are like, the only way I can get into this is if I can actually play with somebody, because I think it's an incredibly isolating experience for someone to try to be creative inside of a fishbowl. So people are looking for a way to connect with people. But even if with our current limitations with the latency, like especially for improvised music, there's an opportunity there in a way to play with the latency. You know, it's like, okay, so like I know that I'm like a millisecond behind this other guy. So like, well, I guess we got to do long tones then, and we got to focus on our harmonics or whatever. And it's kind of cool, you know, kind of in a way that kind of reminds me of like marching band, when you played in the pit and you had to like, you couldn't watch the drum major because you had to listen for the sound coming from behind you, you know?
Hey, as a quick side note, has anyone actually edited a Zoom conversation yet? Like actually put that in a Pro Tools session and looked at it? Because it is super weird, because my experience with it is like, the problem is it's not consistent. It's not like a delay that is just like, you know, in a straight line. It slows up, it slows down, and then it speeds up. There's this modulation happening constantly. And that's what makes it impossible to play together, because it's like, it slows down a lot, and then it speeds up, and it resyncs, and then so there's all of this variation that's happening, which it became immediately obvious why, so this is why two musicians in two different time zones can play together.
Yeah.
and becomes part of the sound. You know, it's like the improvisers responding to even the wrong notes that the other guy plays. They don't just stop playing because the other guy played a wrong note. Like they play off of it, you know. And in a best case scenario, it's possible, you know.
I got a friend, shout out Travis Laurendine in New Orleans, who's watching us right now, who's texting me, dude, I did it. He did it a couple days ago with Trombone Shorty and the guitarists for the Revivalists in New Orleans, separate location, both New Orleans, jamming in real time.
Really? What did he use?
Oh, I want to look at this.
He said they used Twitch and they did it on a proprietary back end that they built something special on top of. So it's like not out.
Oh man. Well, tell him to let us know when it's
where,
out.
Where can we look at this?
No,
So
he has a whole team of super talented engineers, and so I'm saying like, dude, you're gonna let people use this? And he's like, dude, yes, we have to talk. So I'm gonna talk to him. We'll do a follow up. I'll let you guys know a follow up what I find out from this.
Yeah, maybe this is the next Jam Card product. The Jam
let's
Card
go.
Live Jam.
Live jam.
So much jam.
So is this on Trombone Shorty's like social media pages? Like where can we watch this? Elmo?
Let me ask him if it's still live on Twitch. It was on Twitch.
Okay.
Yeah, so Twitch and like so Kevin Lin, who's one of the co-founders of Twitch, is actually one of our angel investors in Jamcard, and he's also a business partner with Travis, with the guy that I'm texting with. They do a lot of projects together, mostly based out of New Orleans. And once again, I'm super sad that I'm not in New Orleans right now for Jazz Fest, but
Jazz Fest.
Eating crawfish enchiladas. So I'll let you guys know. I'll let you guys know more about this, but that's just, I had to just bring that attention. So he says he's got it. So with that being said, Simon, we're close, bro, at the very least.
Good.
But just a heads up too, sorry, because this is a Zoom conference. I have to leave in like 5 minutes.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, it is 11. We said that we would go in for an hour from 10 to 11.
Yeah.
And it's, but I do want to stay on for even if individuals have to go, I want to stay on a little bit and just kind of dig into some of these key points at for the moment and for the future. So we're talking about the future being what we can potentially bring people together in higher quality to play music together and stream it, which would be huge if we can execute that. It's not there yet, but in the moment, people are having trouble figuring out how to get people to pay for their live streams, and they're doing like the tipping thing, which I've gotten some tips on this thing. I know Brandy and Desron are doing their brunch every Friday, which has been successful in terms of viewership, but it's basically just the equivalent of being at a little jazz club with a tip jar in front of you. So the paywall thing, what the consensus I was hearing from you guys collectively was sort of to the tune of we need to not be afraid to create paywalls and promote an event as long as we can do it in high quality, and expect and demand that people pay to get into that event and ask for it as a support. I mean, we're still asking from people, but there's an exchange there that people might be more willing to pay for than we're thinking if we do set up this infrastructure for them to know about it and pay for it.
I know my good friend, shout out to Derek Gripper in Cape Town, South Africa, but he was already experimenting with some pretty progressive promotional models where he had a promoter working side by side with him, and they would just put out and spend these massive amounts of money on Facebook in towns that Derek has never toured before. And they would just rent a hall out on their own. And they would just bombard basically every person in that population with this massive Facebook campaign. And he would go on the road and sell out these halls in towns he's never been before. And, it was like mind blowing to me that he sort of experimented with this model by presenting a concert in 3 different time zones, as he called it, all from Cape Town, of course. But he played 6 hours in one day and sold tickets on Eventbrite, took out these, again, massive Facebook campaigns to promote it. And you had to get access, you had to buy a ticket through Eventbrite. And he ended up making like a decent, what he considers a decent day of, he had to share it with the promoter, but he made a decent day of income from those performance, like what he would normally get playing at a let's say Zenkel Hall or something. So I think that it was just fascinating to learn about that specific example.
Yeah, maybe the next panel we do needs to be with promoters, because it sounds like that's a big consensus here, is that just the promotional aspect of it is not actually lost with the losing of the live venues. And now it's just you're promoting something different in a different way.
The only thing that super sucks about the model I just discussed is that you're giving so much money to Facebook, which might just repulse you on a cellular level, and how do you morally come to terms with that? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's another. Sorry, did Elmo? Were you going to say something? You unmuted yourself for a second.
It's okay. This is Facebook.
No, I'm curious. What are your please? What are your thoughts? I want people's thoughts on these on the role that these platforms play, and what we can do.
I was also wondering, Simon, what year was that? Recent, or was that like a few years ago? He was doing those Facebook ad campaigns.
No, it's very recently, like
awesome.
right before the pandemic hit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Smart. You can do a lot with that. I mean, I wish we still haven't even attempted any Facebook ads or boosts, which has become so user friendly. It's, I guess, stupid that we haven't, but I look forward to even running experiments with it, and artists should be for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's your marketing budget, right? Hey.
Yeah, exactly.
At least it's quantifiable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, that whole discussion, as well as a lot of things we've been talking about, is like the relation of the artist to like the system. Like, do you use I remember like when I was like in a punk band in high school, we used to like, when our music had no consequences as far as us being able to eat, because we were, in 11th grade, like, are we going to fight the system? I don't mean to say it in that word, but that's like, as a high school, like, we're going to fight the system and never give in, or are we going to use it? And when I first heard an interview or read an article by Henry Rollins, and he talked about like his work ethic and doing, he does voiceover work, and he basically is like, his work ethic is insane, like from the beginning until today. And to me personally, that always spoke to me. And he's a definite like use the system against the system kind of guy. But I don't know. I mean, and that's where I fall, whether it's Facebook or Spotify. Like, yes, they're evil, but we can also use it to do stuff that's the opposite of evil. But I totally understand where people are coming from, where they're like, no way, man, I'm not giving them a penny. Well, I don't know.
They tend to play to their own advantage in the cases of like, if you post from your fan page, you're really not going to get it seen unless you're paying for it to be seen, which is crazy. And I know Instagram does less of that mentality, and I think is Instagram
only a matter of time, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's owned by Facebook. That's the model.
They're owned by Facebook. They know you're registered at this point as a business page. They know you're a business page. I think it's a matter of time until they're just like, and it doesn't matter that you have 100,000 followers.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly their business model. But,
yeah.
What they did with recorded music was interesting with video. They just opened up the bandwidth for video, and every artist put all their music up there on video because they were getting better hits than YouTube. Mm-hmm. None of it was licensed. So then when they turned around to license it with the labels or with the individuals, everybody was already in, and their videos would have been taken down if they didn't agree to whatever terms Facebook set for them.
Yep.
I still don't even know what the terms are of Facebook. Mm-hmm. And what they pay for music.
And they also hacked that. They prioritized your video, and they counted a view as 3 seconds without the audio on, compared to YouTube, which is I think 30 seconds with the audio on. So they were really just like showing you fake numbers essentially, and like luring your ego in.
No kidding. Wow.
Well, luring your licensing in because
you're licensing via ego.
So now no one. I mean, we as a label, we wanted to say no to Facebook, but it was impossible for us to do that because every artist would have all their videos taken down.
Is there a possibility or an opportunity here because of the change in the entire industry now to come together and create something that sidesteps one or multiple of these platforms? like a collectively owned technology platform.
You
Well,
need
quick-
all of Elmo's engineers to come, donate their time.
Hey,
I mean,
send me a pitch, elmo@jamcard.com. No, I'm kidding.
You're gonna get some, bro. I'll send you one.
I'll listen. Hey, hit me with the pitch.
That's it's. I feel like there's a real opportunity there because there's open source software but there's not like the question is, can there be a collectively owned platform that can be profitable into itself to be able to get money in the way that these for-profit platforms are able to bring in money to expand and have more engineers and hire the right people, but like something that isn't just purely based on the model of make as much money as possible in the long term, something that's based on the model of us as a music industry, as all of the creators in the music industry. We want to support this thing because it will actually support us, and we've seen over and over again that when something gets big enough, it stops supporting us. It'll support the creatives until it gets big enough to own the creatives, and then it will just own.
I still think you're either, yes, it's possible, but you're going to need either a super angel, super financier, or you're going to need an Amazon or someone to pay for it, because and Amazon would be perfect because of AWS, because your server space, your server costs alone are going to be insane because live streaming is like the #1 bandwidth sucker. So it's going to be expensive. So even if you do something scrappy, if you actually start getting people on it, you're going to need to be able to pay those server costs. So you kind of have to raise insane amounts of money and think of long-term, okay, we'll make money in 10 years because we're going to lose so much right now from server costs.
Well, what about empowering a more friendly musician organization like Bandcamp just to expand the services that they're already doing to encompass all of this other stuff?
I think I heard of a startup that does like what Greg was talking about. It's called Tidal. It's mostly artist owned and
it's owned by super small artists that put like that
they all
really
had a
care
big
about
They had an Illuminati meeting where they decided how it's going to work.
yeah anyone can be Daft Punk too if you just buy the costume.
That title was all like free improvised music, right? Is that the one?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, free jazz.
Free jazz, right?
I'm sorry that I got to dip out. I could talk to you guys for hours, and I would like to.
Well, thank you for joining us. Any last things you want to just make sure everybody knows about the things that they can utilize as far as Jamcard goes?
For sure, yeah. If you're a professional musician or music professional, either apply to join Jamcard, or if you're already on Jamcard, utilize the tools to start booking remote sessions, lessons, mentorship, anything you can to make some extra money, all from your home. And if you're just a music fan or enthusiast or whatever, or just hobbyist, I recommend downloading the Jamcard app and checking out. We have thousands of like the top tier musicians available right now to teach, play on your track, mix your track, mentor you, whatever it may be. And so you just download it and you just send them an offer. There's not prices. It's not like Greg Spiro, $200 for an hour. It's send me an offer. So you also, for the musicians, you're not like, you don't have to put a price tag next to your name. It doesn't display a number. So it keeps that private. As we all know, we don't even have one number anyways. We have a range of offers for ourselves. So
yeah, and for the professional musicians who are watching now, if you're not a member of Jamcard, I would highly recommend signing up, because you can utilize these resources to make some money in the time that we're not out on the road.
Yes, and we're about to launch on Wednesday. I'll just say it here right now for whoever's watching. On starting Wednesday, we have Splice. We brought on Splice as a partner, and they're gonna book $200,000 of musicians on booking. So
Nice.
and we're going and getting other companies like that who have the financial ability to do that and do want to give back instead of just giving back via donation, which we also did with the Creative Community Fund, which you can Google about, but also getting musicians working again, so you're actually using your brain and you're at home and you're like feeling good about yourself and creating. So we're going to be doing all we can to make partnerships with other companies to help bring opportunities into Jamcard to hire our members for, services. So
Nice.
much
Great.
love, everybody.
Well,
It was great meeting all you guys.
Thank you for being a part of this, Elmo.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me, Greg.
Cool. Catch you soon.
Talk to you guys soon.
Good to meet you.
Cool. So yeah, we'll also wrap this up pretty soon. There's, I guess, Scotty, I just am curious about, you're artists. You have some great artists on your label, a lot from my hometown Chicago, and then also from some other areas. What are they doing right now to sustain during this time, and are they thinking about the path forward in terms of how we can move if things don't change as far as touring goes? Because we're looking at maybe through 2021 for a lot of venues to reopen.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that people are doing what they can. I would, there was only, I mean, I don't know, to be honest. And people are doing what they can. We've, from our part as a label, we've been trying to basically, do more, basically make offers to make records right now to some of our artists, just to like give them some work, and do something that I feel like could be mutually beneficial with the time. But I think everybody's just got a big question mark, really, honestly. I know that most of the artists we work with haven't been keen to do live streams. I think a couple people have done some stuff, but in general, the response has been like they're not very interested. So really, honestly, I don't really know what the answer is, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, there are some
people are applying for unemployment and applying for government loans and wishing for the best. I think a bigger question on everyone's mind right now too. I mean, obviously everyone's concerned about how to make a living, but I think a lot of people are very concerned with how to stay creative and how to just, feel passionate about making music and making art right now. And that's been a big challenge for everyone I've talked to,
I feel like they're not giving it away too, because like there's something really horrible about that feeling of thinking you're just giving away your soul for free, and what that can do to any creator's mental health. So like I just want to show my general resolve and empathy for all the creators out there, in this predicament.
I've heard some folks talking about Amerta Kadambi posted on Facebook. She was talking about, it's like, has anyone else done a live stream and had this feeling where like you were really nervous before and during, and right afterwards you felt really terrible after you did it? And then there was a lot of people commenting being like, that's exactly how it felt. And like, I think musicians are struggling with the lack of connection that is possible doing that. I don't think everyone feels that way, but I could see how it feels that way. I mean, essentially, for a lot of musicians, they get into playing music not necessarily because it's like, oh, this is my ticket to like having like a steady paycheck, but it's like, so it's a way, if they feel like they have something to share with the community and people want to hear it from them, and so it's a way to feel fulfilled on a communal level for someone, and that's just totally been removed. You're inside of a fishbowl, like improvising for 1,000 anonymous avatars. So I don't know, man. I think that, I don't know what to say about live streaming, if that's an answer or what. But
yeah, I wonder if there's a way to.
Did anyone see Floren's post? The singer Floren, who she wrote an essay on her Facebook page, basically asking musicians to stop doing their live stream concerts, because it's just reinforcing this idea of devaluation and giving away content for free. And I just think it's something for us all. I'm not saying I endorse her position but I definitely think we should be thinking about it and considering it.
Well, my position is
that.
Sorry, go on, Scotty.
No, you go ahead, Greg. You go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm much more optimistic about it than that, in terms of it does suck right now in a lot of ways. The connection that you have with the audience is minimal because people are just chatting there and you can't collaborate with other musicians. But as we heard from Elmo's friend earlier, technologies are being developed that will allow us to, at at the first part, like collaborate with other artists from our live streaming setups. But then I wonder if there's going to be another tier of how people can interact in more tangible ways. I don't know what that looks like, but a way to feel the audience a little bit more, because we're just at the infancy of it, and this might be something that has to be done for a long time and therefore develops as an industry because we need the tools to fix these problems. Like, why does it feel like shit to live stream to a bunch of avatars who you don't know, and how can that be solved? Wonder if there might be ways to make that work.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, there might be ways that don't involve screens, you know, like, sure, right now there's the stay-at-home order, social distancing order, but those things eventually get phased into like the next level where it's like, okay, no more than 30 people can be together at once, and everyone's got to be 6 feet apart, and it's got to be open air. So, all right, so maybe we're doing concerts, you know, in a parking lot, and everyone's 6 feet apart, you know, and like, you know, like, I don't know, I'm like more interested in what that looks like than like how to figure out how we can all play, you know, Rock Band or Guitar Hero on the internet together. Like, it's kind of like, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of one step away from that, really, in the end. Like, it's like, why don't you just play video games with somebody else? Like, it's like, you're not going to hear their instrument in the room with you. Like, it's really, why do you even need to play the instrument? You're not going to hear the timbre or feel the vibration. Like, so why don't you just play a friggin' electronic drum set and a synthesizer, you know? Like, I don't know.
Well, you're speaking to the nature of live music and what's so special about it, and I couldn't agree with you more. That's something that a lot of us are missing right now. People who got into the music industry because they love playing music.
So what you're saying, Scotty, is there's... Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
I was just going to make a joke. So what you're saying, Scotty, is after the pandemic, we're going to see 1 million more Jacob Colliers. Is that what you're predicting?
I don't know. I don't know what Jacob Collier's up to, but if he's playing outdoor concerts in a garden with a small audience of friends and family around him, I hope so, yes.
That's not a bad idea, Scotty, and I know that's what my studio is prepping for, in hopes that these orders get lifted and that we can have small concerts that we can then live stream, and that'll be something that a lot of these live venues will be able to do also, the ones that are completely out of work right now because there's no audience to go into them. Maybe there will be the ability to do a revenue share with a venue and an artist, and have a select group of people in there to experience the concert live. So at least you can transmit that particular energy as a collective through the
it could be like one of those things, like you see those old videos from like German public television in the 60s when they had like Howlin' Wolf and his band come out and play, and like they would build the set of the stage to look like a juke joint from Chicago, you know, and there would be like 7 or 8 audience members just kind of like lounging around. Like, I don't know, you know, set design could become a really important thing for that too. Like, how do you create this experience that someone would actually want to tune into, you know? Does it have to just be like, you know, a strip show, or could it be something where it's like, I don't know, you know?
Everyone invest in a green screen. I want to play in space.
Right. I was thinking of getting a green screen. This is just a whiteboard behind me right now.
Well, thanks, guys. This has been really awesome. That just feels like a good time to wrap it up, if you don't mind. Unless, Greg, you want to keep going, but
I
defer to
you.
you.
I think it's probably a good idea to cut it. Does anybody have any final closing thoughts before we close out?
Just to keep having these conversations, and I think the big thing that I want to urge people, the way, and I don't want to get like super Marxist, but if I have to, maybe. But like, I feel like, you know, the capitalism that I have to think about on a daily basis, living in New York City, and this idea of being pitted against each other, and, you know, survival of the fittest. And, you know, there really isn't working together in the ethos of New York City. And so we have to sort of combat these kind of tendencies on the most fundamental level for us all to think in tandem and look at this as an ecosystem. And so I just want to encourage everyone to continue to have these conversations and solving these problems moving forward.
Yeah, I second that.
Here.
Cool. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate everybody being on board for this conversation. I hope that some value came out of it, and let's continue to think and brainstorm and send notes to each other. And for everybody listening, you can get in touch with all of us in different ways on the internet. We're all very accessible people, and we love to hear your thoughts in the comments here. And then also, if anybody has ideas on how to help solve these problems, let me know, and I will continue to talk about them when I come online every morning at 8 a.m. and then continue to do some of these special broadcasts for people who can't quite make it happen that early.
All right. Thanks, y'all. Thank you. Lovely meeting and talking with everyone.
Cool.
Thank you all. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Meet you guys.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that was fun. Man, I didn't even take out the, I was going to play some like cheesy intro music. Right? But before I get ahead of myself right now, I will come back tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and play some more music for you along with this push that I got next to me to do some drums and stuff. But please leave your comments in the comment section below on any of these social platforms. I really appreciate you guys tuning in and being a part of this with us. We had Louis Marks from Rope-A-Dope Records. We had Elmo Lovano from Jam Card. We had Scotty McNeese from International Anthem, and also John from Chant Records, and then special guest Simon Rentner from WBGO. I just did all that off the top of my head. Pretty good. Actually, I knew all these guys except for John before the conversation. So, yeah, it's a wild world that we're living in now, and I think the most important thing is to come together and continue to think about what we can do to sustain and move forward and transform during this time, to adapt to the changes in the landscape, of which there are many. So, yeah, thanks for tuning in, and until next time, this has been Mornings with Greg, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.